Hello everybody. I know, it's been a while, but I've been stupid busy. Regardless, a game that I've been spending a lot of my time on lately is Splatoon 2. I used to play a lot of Overwatch. It's probably what a lot of my videos were, if I recall. But I've been taking a break from Overwatch because I'm just pretty overall frustrated with the game. But while I've been playing Splatoon 2, I also remembered that I have my Wii U, and on my Wii U is a copy of Splatoon. The first one. Splatoon 1, Splatoon, whatever you want to call it. And I honestly started to think about what all was the same and different about the two games. That's the whole point of this video. Splatoon versus Splatoon 2. I'm going to start by saying that I'm not going to have any story spoilers, but honestly, if you don't know the story by now, especially for how long these both have been out, I have no words. Anyway, we're going to start with the first thing you see when you load up the game, the news. Now, most people tend to only watch the news when they choose to, but no matter what you do, well, you watch the news when you first load into the game. However, in these games, the news is simply just telling you what the current map rotations are for the normal and ranked matches, plus occasionally it'll mention stuff about major game updates such as new weapons and things like that, as opposed to the actual news where it's just a constant shit show. I should mention, though, that the stages change every couple hours. In the first Splatoon, you have to sit through the news again to learn the new stages, whereas in Splatoon 2, it just kicks you to the hub world and lets you figure it out. As long as we're in the hub world, let's compare the two. As implied, this is where you can access every part of the game. You can get to the multiplayer lobby, in-game weapon and gear shops, and the single-player campaign. There are also NPCs of other players that usually will have some kind of post over their head from Miiverse or some kind of equivalent. And you can also purchase some of their gear for a price. Splatoon's hub world is more open and has given the giant crosswalk in the middle. Kinda reminds me of Shibuya in Tokyo, while Splatoon 2's hub is a bit more cluttered and busy, and to be honest, kinda reminds me of Akihabara, which is also in Tokyo. Next is the bread and butter of both games, the multiplayer. Now, the lobby in both games is pretty similar, but Splatoon 2's menus are a bit cleaner looking and easier to read from a distance, which is nice for when you have a small TV like me. Once you load into a lobby, you'll need to wait for the lobby to fill before the match can actually begin. In Splatoon, you can use the gamepad from the Wii U to help play some mini-games to help kill some time, because sometimes you are going to wind up having to wait for a while. Whereas Splatoon 2 doesn't really have these mini-games, so sometimes if it feels like you're waiting for forever for a lobby, really the best you can do is sit there and maybe pull out your phone. The immediate difference between the two is obviously the stages. While Splatoon 2 did have some of Splatoon's stages carry over, not all of them did, and even the ones that did were generally tweaked to help fit with new mechanics in the new game. But regardless, in both games, you and 3 teammates will load in and have about 3 or so minutes, depending on your game mode, with a set objective. Now, most people will play the main game mode, which is Turf War, where whichever team has more of the floor of their color after 3 minutes wins, while the ranked game modes tend to have more defined objectives and can often go over the set time, especially if overtime gets triggered because of how close the match is. Now, in battle, your gear abilities can give you added advantages. While most of the abilities from Splatoon did carry over to Splatoon 2, not all of them did, but the ones that didn't were generally ones that weren't popular anyway. And the special weapons that your weapon have definitely did not carry over between the games. Now, each one has their own unique specials, and some people will tend to debate which game had the better specials. Now, I personally have ones from both Splatoon and Splatoon 2 that I like better than others. Personal favorites being the Bomb Rush, which is in both games, the Ink Strike, which is in the first Splatoon, and the Booyah Bomb, which was a recently added special for Splatoon 2. But win or lose, you're still going to gain money and XP. XP will level you up for the first bunch of levels. It'll unlock more weapons for you to use in the multiplayer. Although, once you hit a certain level, all the weapons are unlocked anyway, and level just becomes more of a time played indicator, since unlike other shooters, you can't see someone's profile and see how long they played without adding them as a friend first. Although, that being said, Splatoon 1 has a level cap of 50, whereas I don't believe Splatoon 2 actually has a level cap. I've never personally seen anybody over about 120, 130, but I've heard that there are much higher. The next thing we'll talk about is the campaign. Now, the campaign is really just a glorified tutorial to familiarize you with the game's mechanics. But in the campaign, you just need to get to the end of the level using the terrain to your advantage and taking on any enemies in your way. Pretty straightforward, and the game will tend to walk you through what you need to know to complete the level. Now, this does apply to a handful of boss fights you'll have, but even the boss fights are fairly easy. To get into the campaign in each hub world, there will be someone standing on or near what appears to be a sewer grate, and if you change to your squid form, you'll enter the grate, and then you'll be sent to the campaign world, Octo Valley. For anybody who doesn't really know about this game, your character is a squid, and the enemies in the campaign are octopi. Although Splatoon 2 has an optional DLC that allows you to play as one of the octolings. Now, the DLC is kind of like a single-player campaign, and when most people loaded up, we thought it was going to be an exact same thing, but it wound up being a bunch of challenges that are specifically designed around whatever assigned weapon you're given strength and weakness. When you beat the DLC, though, you'll be able to play as one of the octolings, or an inkling if you still want to use that, in the multiplayer modes. Now, the last bit of multiplayer I want to talk about is exclusive to Splatoon 2. It's called Salmon Run, and the best comparison I can think of is the old school Call of Duty Zombies. You know, like World at War before it got all with this complicated, like, extra aliens story and blah, 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 blah. You know, the good zombies. But what it is you and 3 others are going to load into a relatively small map, and hordes of what are called salmonoids will swarm you and basically try to take you all out. You have to try to survive the allotted time as well as collect golden eggs from some of the larger ones that are going to attack you. You got to pay attention to that, though, because if you don't have a certain number of the golden eggs collected before the round timer ends, it's game over. You'll also get game over if everyone is taken down. Now, that being said, if you or a teammate is taken down, you'll remain, but in a very slowly moving little life preserver until you're hit with a shot from a friendly weapon, which will res either you or the teammate. A bit of advice, if you can, always try to res instead of paying attention to the other things, because this will increase your odds of winning. That way, if you get downed, if you res the person first, the round is still going and it's not a game over. Because I've seen a lot of people that will ignore rezzing and then they'll get killed and then it's game over. But the mode does give you rewards, but instead of XP, you're occasionally given money. You're also given exclusive gear as well as some other goodies. The other goodies you can get are usually things like XP boosters and things like that. Honestly, once you hit the certain level, those XP boosters really don't mean a whole lot. Now, both Splatoon and Splatoon 2 have amiibo support, but obviously, since more of them came out between the two, Splatoon 2 has more of them that it can use, whereas the first game can only use the ones that were out with the first game. Now, in Splatoon, the amiibo will give you access to little challenges. The challenges are just campaign levels with a slight twist, such as having to use a different weapon or limited ammo or something like that. And completing all the challenges gives you exclusive gear and weapons that you can use in the multiplayer. Although, I should mention that the 2 Squid Sister amiibos don't have any of the challenges, but what they do is allow you to listen to music from the game at a sort of concert. I'll mention that again later. Now, amiibo and Splatoon 2 work a bit differently. They automatically give you their assigned gear. They have a set of gear that they will give you, and over time they'll give it to you. Usually only takes a couple days for each one, though. But what you can also do with them is you can save presets of gear to them, so that way what you can do is, as opposed to having to go into your menu and change each piece of gear individually, you can just tap the amiibo to the little pad when you're in a lobby, not a pre-game lobby where you're waiting for it to fill, but before you select your game type, you can tap it there and it'll automatically change to your preset, which is kind of nice. What you can also do with them is you can also essentially, I guess for the lack of a better phrase, Instagram with them, because they let you take little pictures with them and whatnot, which can sometimes a lot of times I've seen people use it to just kind of show off new gear or show off other things, but it doesn't have a whole lot of practicality. But it's still pretty straightforward, though, huh? One other thing is Splatfests. For anybody who doesn't know, they're in-game events where each player picks a team, which is usually based around a theme of some sort, and battle it out over which team is superior. For example, if you're an early bird or a night owl, which actually was an event a long time ago. You pick your team, and then you're given a Splatfest t-shirt, which indicates which team you're on, and the abilities you gain on these shirts are twice as strong. But you can only have them in your inventory from when the Splatfest is announced until the event ends. And during the event, the Splatfest shirt is the only piece of gear you can have in that slot. Now, Splatoon's last Splatfest was a long time ago, and the theme was actually which of the two in-game idols you prefer, Callie or Marie. Though, if you want to know how Splatfest might have looked in the original Splatoon, the amiibo concerts that the Callie and Marie amiibos do look exactly like how the old Splatfests did. Now, as far as more general differences and whatnot, I think the UI in Splatoon 2 is a bit smoother and just looks a bit nicer. But the UI for both games just fit the general aesthetic of both, because Splatoon 2 obviously was a bit more refined because they had a better idea of what people liked and what didn't, so they were able to plan accordingly. The mini-map being on the Wii U gamepad was definitely way more convenient to me, because it was much easier for me to just quick glance down as opposed to having to hit a button to see the map and then hope that somebody doesn't kill me. Oh, and for anybody who's somehow not aware, Nintendo now charges you to play games online, but this only applies to the Switch. So for Splatoon, there's no extra fee to be able to play the full game. Although with Splatoon 2 being newer and there being more Switch units sold than Wii U units, there's going to be a bit more players in Splatoon 2, and Splatoon 2 lobbies will fill up much faster. Well, as long as you have good internet anyway. And that's about it. Before I end the video, I just want to say that this channel is still going to be relatively quiet, because more of my effort for this kind of thing is going to be going to my Twitch and my vlog channel. Links will be in the description somewhere. That being said, though, even with my Twitch and my vlog channel, I've still been kind of slacking off on them because I've had just a lot going on in just life, and I've been pretty busy. But now that everything's starting to calm down again, I'll be able to pick that kind of stuff back up. But either way, thanks for watching, and as a lot of people in the Splatoon 2 and Splatoon community will tell you, stay fresh.